together as part of the team, we are going to look this morning at this knitting map behind us, and we are going to use that experience to think about how we learn. We are drawing this from the Project Muse at the Project Zero classroom at the Harvard Graduate School of Education. And the great advantage of Project Muse, which is short for Museums in Education, is that it gets us to think about how we might use museums differently. Usually when we go to the museum, we begin to think about the theme, let's say. If we were studying the Greeks, for example, we might take them to see some Greek art. But the advantage of Project Muse is that it begins to get us to think about the learner and what it's like to learn, the process of learning, and how to think about how we're learning, and for example, how it fine-tunes our powers of observation and our powers of reflection. Now, as you know, Kieran, you and I have been working on this before, so what we are going to do this morning, and we'll be joined by Dan Blackshields shortly, another member of our team, is to model for our colleagues how we might think about the work using the Muse quests. Now, the Muse quests is just a series of questions that we have to ask about the work, and these are based on Howard Gardner's entry points to learning. And we have a variety of entry points, for example, narrational entry points where we're concentrating on the story, but we've looked at those in another session. Foundational entry points where we're focusing on the big questions, aesthetic entry points where we're focusing on the work of art as art, and perhaps also logical entry points. So in short, there are so many ways into the work. The key thing for us as educators is to open the work for our students. And for us as educators as well, we're seeing this, the double use of this in that we're doing it ourselves to learn how we learn, but we're also thinking about it in terms of how we might teach our students how to learn and to make them more metacognitive and reflective about their work. And so I think that it will be, as it were, our task this morning to show how do we open the work, how do we bring the visit to the gallery as a learning experience, and of course also we don't want to dumb down the artwork. We want to open it up and reflect on it and cherish it more. So I think the Project Muse is a very useful tool for us to also make the point ultimately that people learn in different ways and therefore they experience in different ways, and in that sense too this will have of course powerful implications for how we assess our students, because we should be giving them the experience of expressing themselves in different ways. So in terms, Kieran, of how we're going to use this in this online postgraduate certificate in teaching and learning in higher education, our task will be to think of it in terms of how we will get our own students to learn. So one of the things we will invite our colleagues to do is to reflect on this in our Blackboard discussion, for example, and to see how they might bring that learning experience to their students. How will they set up their own learning, perhaps, so that they might ask more open-ended questions, so that they might use the entry points to learning to open up a concept. Equally, for example, I'm trying to encourage them to bring their students down to this gallery or another gallery and to see how we can make connections from the discipline to the artwork, and how indeed the learner can be positioned here as a learner and can think and reflect about how they learn and bring that rich experience back to the classroom and to the world.